Okay, we're recording. Felicity Cole, welcome to the show.
Hi Greg, thank you for having me.
So it's a beautiful setting. Where are you at the moment?
So I'm in Mallorca and I'm on Palma Nova beach kind of area today. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah, near the gym. I train at CrossFit Mallorca at the moment, so tend to be at this side of the island when we're at the gym. And then there's a awesome athletics track in Magaluf, so tend to be around this area for that.
Perfect, perfect. Um, Funnily enough, when I put out on the stories, like any questions for Felicity, most of the questions that came in were asking about your van life and
Oh really?
yeah. So maybe we'll start there. So you
Yeah, yeah.
essentially you live in Spain, right?
Yeah, so now we're living in Mallorca in Spain for the next, well, I don't know actually, we have no plan, but probably at least until May, June before it gets really busy, tourist season. And live full time in the van, don't have a home, and we've been doing it for a year and a half. And for me, it's like the best thing ever. I know it wouldn't suit many people, but I love it. And it suits this lifestyle really well, the kind of wannabe athlete lifestyle. I told you,
Yeah,
first
nice,
one.
nice.
It's all right.
But you're essentially based in one spot, are you? And living
So
out
we
the
have,
van?
yeah, we have, like I say, because we train at CrossFit Mallorca, we tend to be in that area most of the time when we're at those sessions, and we've got 4 or 5 little spots that we found that where we park, and we kind of rotate between those. So one is like on the cliffs, one is in like it's like a hiking area, one is in like a car park, and because it's off season, everything's really quiet. So we've just got a nice little routine of gym, yeah, eating on the beach. So it's perfect. And then a
Lovely.
little bit in between.
And who's we? Just you and your
Oh,
your
sorry.
partner, yeah?
Yeah, me and my boyfriend who yeah, also does HYROX. He's Swedish, and yeah, we've been together about 2 years, and
Okay.
we started like van life after actually maybe a year together, and then we started van life together.
Nice. There's a few people that train at CrossFit Mallorca, isn't there?
Yes, so you've got John Wynn and Ange Hardy's from like the Elite 15, and then there's quite a few others as well. Obviously, Rob who owns it, and then you've got loads of the guys who train there doing all of the like doubles, and yeah, so there's loads of people. So it's a great environment. I really like it, and it's HYROX affiliated. So you've got everything there. Probably the best sled track I've ever trained on because it's so tough. The carpet is as close as I've come to for uh
Wow.
being, being like the HYROX carpet. So it's just amazing environment, and everyone's super friendly. So that's why we were here a bit last year, and then we came back because we just loved it so much. I love island life, and it's just perfect setup, training there. Food's good. Luckily the weather has been amazing, so yeah, we'll be here for a while, and it's nice to have a few other people who are doing HYROX as well, so in the little HYROX bubble.
Yeah. Has Brexit screwed with your living abroad
That is
plans?
no, well, that is a good question, and that's kind of how it all started. So basically, when COVID started, well, in the midst of COVID, I went to Mike's gym between Marbella and Malaga for a month because he was doing like a special offer during COVID. Everything was like no money coming in. He was doing like stay at Mike's gym for 500 euros a month, and I was like, that's a no-brainer. I'm gonna go and stay there. So I went over there in November 2020. Ended up absolutely loving it, realizing like this is the dream lifestyle. I was working at that time, working online only because that's all you could do. So I was working from there and just realized like this was the lifestyle. So then I ended up kind of getting stuck in Spain because you couldn't get back into the UK, because you couldn't fly from Spain to the UK. So from a month ended up turning into 7 months of being kind of stuck in Spain, but I had no reason to go back. And in that time, I started the process of getting a Spanish residency. So because Brexit had messed up the plans, because obviously you couldn't be there longer than 3 months at a time. So it was a really, really long process and really complicated, and I wouldn't recommend it. But obviously now I've got it, I'm glad. It took about a year, and they want to know everything. You have to go through so many processes, but I was determined that that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, basically Brexit was a problem, and I went through the process of getting a residency. So I'm not a permanent resident. It's just it's like a European, it gives me the same status as a European citizen. So my boyfriend is Swedish, so it's the same as him. So you can be in Europe, and that's the only way I'm allowed to be here, because I know a lot of people have got into like stuck because they want to be here but they can't because of the Brexit thing. So yeah, I am really lucky that I managed to get it. Process was not fun, but yeah, now it seems like nothing once you got it, and glad I went through it. So yeah.
And now you're sitting on a beach talking to me, so
Yeah,
it was worth
yeah.
it.
Finally the dream comes true. Dreamed of living.
So what do you, work-wise, you're PTing, are you?
Yeah, so I'm a coach, and I've been a coach for over 20 years in kind of all aspects of PT, personal trainer, whatever you want to call it. And again, because of COVID, I used to work in person, and I was based in London for 14 years, PTing out of studio at different studios around London. And then because of COVID, everything went online, and I was already doing a few online clients because I had a few around the world, so it was quite an easy transition. And then I transitioned into doing like one-to-ones and classes online, and kind of like what everyone did. And then just kept doing it over the whole time, and it obviously allowed me to be in Spain and all over Europe. And then I've just kind of kept doing it, so I've reduced my hours a lot because this lifestyle is obviously way cheaper. I don't have a home, I don't have any like major outgoings, just fuel and gym and food. So I've cut down a lot. So I'm doing a few in-person clients, a few Zoom clients, and then a few programming client, like online programming, and kind of a mixture of everything, endurance. So a lot of runners, triathletes, and now HYROX. And then I get quite a lot of like people who've been through kind of surgeries, or like unexplained injuries, or those kind of things. I like really interesting people, in terms of been told they can never run again or never do this again, and then I like taking those on and taking them to wherever they want to go. So yeah, not much working and compared to what I was doing in London, but what I'm doing now is like perfect balance, just enough to give me the money to live this lifestyle for a bit, and do what I love as well, because I do love coaching. So I would like more in-person clients, because that's what I love the most. Obviously I prefer that to talking on screen, but I do like that on-screen stuff as well, because I think quite good at it now.
Okay, cool. Can we talk about we'll get a bit more HYROXy in a bit, but let's talk about your sporting history.
Okay.
What have you done to get to this point? Were you a runner, triathlete?
Yeah, so shall I go from the beginning? So from early, yeah, teenage 20s, running, started with running and kind of athletics. And then when I was 20, I started weights and weight training. And I'd say that was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I recommend anyone start weight training young, because that just gave me such a good base of strength. And the strength training has carried on throughout. Like I've never stopped, but in different forms. So I've never been, like we were talking about before, I've never been like the strongest, but I've always maintained some kind of strength training. And then throughout doing the strength training, I then transitioned to when you kind of are a runner, you end up going through all the distances. Kind of went through all the distances, and then got into kind of a little bit more random stuff, so different trail runs, that type of thing. Then when I moved to London, I wanted to meet people, get involved, so I joined Belgrave Harriers Running Club. So got really into it then, and did all of the cross country season, especially more cross country than track stuff then. Again, something I really recommend for people who haven't done that, is what's given me a really good base is that cross country. So anything from like 3k to 12k through mud, rain, like the toughest conditions, and it definitely gives you such a good base, really strong. And then from the cross country and Belgrave Harriers, I got to the point where I was like, well, I'm never going to be the fastest runner. I need something else. Like I really enjoy this, but I need a new kind of goal, the next thing. Like you go through the running events and go up through, up to the marathon. I thought, now I need something else. One of the guys at my running club was starting a triathlon team, and he was like, why don't you try triathlon? And I was like, hi, no thank you. I was like, well, I have no idea how to swim. Like I can get by in water, but I wouldn't know how to do front crawl freestyle. And he was like, well, you know, that's not a limiting factor. You can learn. I was like, okay, that's a really good point. So he was starting this team. So I started swim coaching, learned how to swim. I was already quite good on the bike because of years of strength training. That gave me a good base. So I started cycling more, did about 5 or 6 years of triathlon and duathlon as well. So run, bike, run without the swim, which was obviously more fun for me. Did, yeah, about 6 years of triathlon. And then from there, the wheels fell off a little bit. So there was a bit of a period where I was really struggling and like really struggling with the endurance sport. But in all of that time as well, I've done many like different endurance events. So the Étape de Tour, I've cycled London to Paris, run across Mallorca, run around Cornwall, all the kind of like mud runs and like Tough Mudder, that type of thing. And then yeah, then found HYROX after was doing turf games, and then needed that next thing from turf games, and then HYROX appeared from, yeah, one client I think said this looks right up your street. So that was just over a year ago, and that's, yeah, that's it, journey to HYROX.
Nice. And is HYROX your primary focus at the moment, would you say?
Yeah, definitely is, and I think it kind of has to be. I don't know, yeah, from looking at other people where they've got kind of two things, it's really hard to be good at two things. Like you can be good kind of a little bit at everything, but to specialize and do really well, and especially because there's so many elements to HYROX, there's so much you can train. So yeah, at the moment that's my main focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I probably should have said at the start, really, so you're at the moment you're in the elite 15 qualifying positions in HYROX with your time. You've got the 10th best time, I think 12th, 10th best time of the year so far.
It was 10th and now it's probably like 13th. I think it was like it's very fast to drop out the bottom. So.
Yeah. And you competed in Maastricht recently at the European Championships in the elite races. Your PB, is it 106.11? I've written down.
Yeah, it's 106.11 in Valencia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask how old you are as well?
43.
43. So I think I'm right in saying you're the oldest of the elite qualifiers as well, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. How was the Maastricht experience? How was that race?
It was a really interesting experience, and I'm so glad and so grateful I got the experience, because it's obviously completely different from like a normal HYROX, because you've got I think they call it like the grid system, where you're in your lanes and you have your own lanes, and obviously they've made it really kind of special by they announce you and you walk in, and so it was quite, for me, I don't really like being on camera, it was quite an experience and quite overwhelming to take that all in. And I went into it with, I wasn't feeling that good. I've got like Achilles niggle, but there was no way I was never not going to do it because of the experience. I found it, because of the difference, I didn't really take this into account. So for example, the first run was 400 meters and then you went straight into the ski ergs. And like, this is all what I've thought about in hindsight. Like, it's almost, you needed to completely change like tactics for this kind of a race, because it's like normally playing to my strengths is having like more of a run, like a longer run would have been better because running is my strength. It was like an absolute sprint to the skier, because it was like quite overwhelming. Obviously the girls are insane, they're incredible athletes, and then you get into the ski erg and again it's like absolute panic, because what they do, as soon as someone's finished on their piece of kit, they clear it away and set up the next bit, so you can kind of feel like everyone leaving around you and you're thinking everything's getting cleared up. So it was a really good experience, but quite overwhelming, and a really good one to take like a lot of lessons from. And I think it was the same with the guys who did, I just from watching or listening to someone's podcast, like what they took from like the Europeans to the North Americans was quite a lot of lessons. So yeah, it was a really cool experience. Really glad I got to do it, but not not my best race, but also like glad I like held on and fought through it. And there was some like a lot of good good lessons I can take from that. And
Yeah.
running your own race is one of the main ones in that panic of like, because the first part, typically I think I build through the race and I can keep going forever, but I'm like a kind of a slow starter. So getting caught up in that first bit of the race is a real lesson to just like chill, take your time, especially as I think the ski erg is probably one of my relative weaker ones. So yeah, don't lesson not to panic and go out too hard. Yeah.
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 Not the first person to do that in HYROX.
Yeah.
What's your in terms of what, like, I presume your aim is to qualify in the elite races for the World Championships. Do you feel like your time, you're going to have to get faster between now and then to do that?
Yeah, and I thought about this because I thought it's two completely different experiences, isn't it? So either trying to stay in the elite 15 or just, obviously I've already qualified for the Worlds if it was like a normal.
Yeah.
And the normal one, I was like, what do I want more? And I thought I can't like not try to go for the elite 15 experience. So yes, I obviously think my time is going to get pushed out very, very soon. So the plan is to try and improve on that time. And in theory, I should be able to get 2 minutes fairly easily, just because in the Valencia race I had a massive wall ball mess up. So taking like all of the rest of the events out of it, if I can just sort the wall balls out, then that would be relatively easy. But a lot depends on the course and the venue. Like I need one that feels good for the run. But yeah, because in Valencia they gave me the wrong wall ball twice. They gave me the 4 kilo instead of the 6 kilo, so there's a bit of kerfuffle with that twice. So I had to go to like another station, so it like messed up my head. So basically, yeah, I need to try and get a better time. So my plan is to try either Barcelona or Stockholm.
Okay.
I'll probably go for Barcelona because I'll get FOMO if I don't do it, because it's an easy flight over and I know quite a few people are doing it. So yeah, the goal is probably Barcelona and then see how that goes, and maybe go to Stockholm as well if maybe just go anyway, just to do the race, or if I don't have a good race in Barcelona, then go with the plan of trying to get a good time. I'd rather do it now earlier on than leave it later. But yeah, let's see. There's so many factors that go into how a race goes, and obviously everyone talking a lot about the venues at the moment. You don't know how it's going to be until a few days before. So yeah, that's why I'm like, I need a few options, like see what happens. And also the race times, yeah, in the Spanish races they tend to still be in the afternoon, whereas obviously the one in Manchester was in the morning, and it was impossible to run hard because you were running with the doubles still on the course. So a little bit tactical, I'm thinking maybe do Barcelona, because typically in the afternoon it's clearer. So yeah, Barcelona is the plan.
It feels like everyone, I'm not going, but it feels like everyone else I know from the UK who does HYROX is going to Barcelona.
Really? Yeah. I kind of noticed that, and I thought, it's because like Barcelona is kind of a cool place to go. But I thought that as well. I thought as well,
yeah,
if I see everyone there, I'm gonna be like, oh, extreme FOMO. So yeah.
How do you feel about like the qualifying process for the elites, like being based on time? Do you think that's the most appropriate thing that they could do, or would you change it?
At the beginning, I thought that was good, but now the more things go on, and obviously I'm a little bit gutted that it seems that Manchester was a long course and then Glasgow was a shorter one, if you go on like what people are saying. So I'm a little bit gutted that I kind of wasted a race. But I don't know what is the fairest way to do it now. I would have said times, but there's so many people talking about it now and how it's not fair and you can't compare the courses. So yeah, I really don't know. Do you have a idea on what you would do?
I must admit, before Manchester, I was kind of the view that there are venue differences, but they're not as significant as a lot of people would say they are. But then Manchester happened, and then Glasgow happened, and like the difference between those two venues was so like clear that now I'm sort of questioning it, I must admit. Manchester felt a little bit long, but you know,
Yeah.
you can kind of always come away and say that, and then but then like people getting 4-minute PBs, you know, two weeks later.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I know someone was talking about it the other day, and like I think their suggestion was like have no like necessarily like elite races at the European or North American Championships, make it an open, anyone can come and race, and then you have like might have the first 5 from that open will qualify for the Worlds, and then the first 5 in the North American Championships can qualify, and so on. So it's like everyone gets the opportunity to race, and then but you know, you take out the venue differences that way, which is an interesting concept, I think.
Yeah, there's so many. I wonder if they will make a change in future years. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens even between now and then, like how much it changes. Especially with the guys, is so tight at the top.
Yeah, like literally seconds makes a difference. So
like every second counts, doesn't
it? So we said you're 43, which isn't old at all, but it's the oldest of the elite. Do you feel like where do you feel like that leaves you in terms of presumably you still feel like you can continue to get better and faster at this sport?
I think so, and I want to think that. So even if like someone told me that you couldn't, I'd be like, no, I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that you could that like I try not to think about the age thing. I don't want to think about that because like after the little blip after triathlon, and then when I turned 40, I felt the best I'd ever felt. I felt stronger, and you've got so much more experience both from from my clients, like what I've taken from them and from myself. So yeah, I think age is just a number, and obviously probably the difference with most women, I guess, this age is they've had children, so there's going to be less older females maybe in this position at this time while they're having babies, maybe. But yeah, I don't want to put an age on it, and I feel like I've definitely got areas I can improve in and am still improving all of the time, and I don't feel like I've slowed down or gone backwards yet. I think a lot of it as well is how you live and like your mindset on things. Society wants to be like when you're 40 you're past it kind of thing, but it depends how you've lived your life and who you surround yourself with and so many factors. So no, I quite I want to prove that it doesn't matter, and I'm going to try and keep improving, and hopefully with a bit of more life experience I can not make the same mistakes as I did before.
Good. Would you say you train differently now to say if you were 15 years younger? Do you train any differently to what you might?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously I've got more experience, but I have to I love training, obviously, so I have to like hold myself back, I think, because I would just train all day if I didn't. But so I definitely train less, and I definitely sleep more now, or try to sleep more now. I think like 15 years ago I was probably like, I don't need to sleep, I can get through everything. I was working way more, so I train less, and probably just different. You just try different things, and trends change as well, so similar but different. Same, the principles that work, but I'd say the overall difference is less volume in terms of the endurance stuff. The strength training has stayed pretty much the same. I strength train kind of 4 times a week forever, and that just feels in different forms, and obviously different depending on the season and period and phase. So
you sort of mentioned, you said about like the life you lead and looking after yourself. Do you, from a nutrition perspective, are there any I mean, someone asked me to ask you about your nutrition. What, you know, it's hard to say what does your nutrition look like. It's not the best question in the world, but how do you approach your nutrition?
I guess the easiest way is to say I just eat real food, and I don't overthink it, and I eat for kind of nourishment and like longevity now as well, and performance. So, and I think I've always pretty much eaten the same. Like I've grown up with a good, healthy relationship with food, and I think based on my work with clients, like that is rare. So I am lucky that like my mum instilled good habits and that. So how I eat is typically 3 meals a day. I eat meat, fish, chicken, rice, potatoes, vegetables, loads of fruit. I love cake, so we always like make little homemade cakes in the van. Yeah, just real food. Like, I don't like whatever you want to call it, like junk food, processed food. I just don't like that anyway, so I just eat real food. We cook everything ourselves, we source it from the best sources, so I eat good quality meat where you can get from the farm. Yeah, just simple but quality, I would say. And I'd say the older I've got, the more like I've focused on it, because again, like, I want to be able to perform and I want longevity, so it matters even more now to get good quality. And then you feel good, and when you eat good, and it definitely affects everything. So yeah, I don't overcomplicate it, and I don't follow any particular diets or trends. And
Okay.
yeah.
Recently I did, and we did a survey where we surveyed the elites and asked them, running numbers, strength numbers, things like that. And I talked about this in the article that I wrote a little bit, but you commented saying, I'd say none of my figures are particularly impressive, but other factors that I believe are super important are years of training consistency, farmer strength, structural balance, grit, resilience, movement efficiency, movement variety, and general time on feet. So I want to delve into that a little bit more if possible, because like, I mean this in no way like badly, but some of you, like your figures weren't overly impressive, to be honest, compared to a lot of the women, but you are competing with them. So to be fair, like, some of the questions that I maybe asked were not the best questions if we're just talking about strength and running ability. Like, there are other factors that play a part. So what could you talk about that some more, maybe?
Yeah, any of those in particular, you mean? Or
well, I guess if someone's out there thinking, I need to become a really good runner and I need to become as strong as possible at squatting and deadlifting, for example, to get good at HYROX, what other things might you say, like, to be focusing on over and above those that maybe a lot of people are forgetting right now?
Yeah, I think, and they definitely do matter. Especially, I'll talk about the girls because it's kind of clearer there. Like, with the girls, it's kind of more obvious, like, who's at the top. So there's definitely being a good runner and definitely having strength matters, especially if you want to be in those. But if you take let's say the top 5 girls, and if you look at their wobbles, they're like flawless. Their ability to move in that path is like absolutely flawless, and that's why they can do 100 easily at the end. So their structural balance, they're like the way they move, and so it's not just that they are strong and they're fast, they just move well. So that's one of the things. So if you look at people who are struggling, look at it more so with the guys. Like, there's not so many guys that can do them unbroken, because if there's any kind of like imbalance in the body, that's like some muscles are working harder than others, that movement, which the girls just like bounce out the bottom and make it look like there's no effort involved, then something is going to fatigue, whether it's like the shoulders or the legs. So that's in terms of working on like overall structural balance, and just that kind of like calisthenic type, gymnastic type strength, where you just move really well, you've got good coordination, you've got good agility. So I think that plays into it a lot. So just general being a good all-round athlete helps in that sense, so you're not overly fatiguing certain muscles when you're on any particular exercise, like the lunges. If you're over using the quads, you're going to burn out on those. You kind of want to share the load. So that was what I was talking about in terms of like the structural balance. And then I think just general, like, if I talk from my background, just from always training, always like carrying, like, even simple things, just like always carrying my own shopping. Like, we have a joke that when we go and fill up the water in the mountain, we're carrying that ourselves. So we spend a lot of time I walk like 12 to 15,000 steps a day. So on your feet a lot. I just think all of these little things, I sit on the ground all of the time because that's what I prefer. I think all of these little things count to making you strong in a, like, you don't need to spend hours and hours like foam rolling or stretching, because you just like you move well, you just have that just like being like a human should be. So then I think if you're starting from that base, it's way easier to then build on that, rather than if you have to sort out bits that feel tight or that kind of thing. And then what else did I say in there?
Well, you also mentioned grit and resilience. So from a mindset perspective, this always interests me as well.
Yeah.
Go on.
Okay, so I was thinking about that one because when I wrote that, and then after watching the girls in the North American champs, I'm like, they're incredible. They are insane. Like that fight at the end, like how much they must have wanted that. And I was thinking again, that is something I think I do have grit, but I don't think I'm on that level of them. I think where I reflect from in a race is other races and experiences and events I've had, and I call on them, and I think nothing will ever be as painful or as tough or as like enduring as that, and I kind of reflect on that. So when I'm like suffering or hurting, I'm like, this is like nothing, it's fine. For example, in the marathon I did, I collapsed on the finish line and was then on a drip for 2 hours, like because I pushed that hard. And then like on the Étape du Tour, the weather, so it was like 212k, the stage of the Tour de France, on the bike, and it was so I can take like quite extremes of temperature. I'm okay with heat and cold, but it was so incredibly cold, and my hands like froze up on the bike. I couldn't brake down the hills. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was so cold. I think I was on the close to like, you know, when you can't function. But then like 9 hours later you finish the race and you're like, well, I got through that. And at one point I thought, you know, I was going to die, but I finished it, I got through it. And so from long endurance events, I think endurance events give you that feeling of, wow, this is so hard, but I did it, I made it. So now like an hour's HYROX, I'm like, okay, it hurts, but it's fine, like I've done harder things. So I think there's many different ways of seeing grit, and for me the feeling of that comes from having done previous events and getting through them and pushing on previous events, because some days you have it and you're just like, you can empty yourself, and like, it's when you have those workouts where you're like, you absolutely like emptied it, and then other days you just don't, for whatever reason, you just don't have it and you just can't push. So like not all races are going to be like that. So it's just like bringing together all of these experiences, and as well actually listening to and having years and years of clients, listening to their stories. It's fascinating because you're like, wow, if they've done that, then this is nothing. Like what I'm going through is nothing. It's like they've managed to do that. So it just like pushes up the levels of like what is achievable and what is possible and how much you can push yourself, because obviously it's always the brain that gives up before the body. So yeah, sometimes where you can really just be like how much can I suffer, and it's like a nice feeling in like how much can you push yourself, because you're like, well, I did that before, so I know I can do that. And I wish I knew how to get that feeling every time, because sometimes it's like the other voice is like, nah. And then some days you just have it and you can go. So yeah, I find it a really interesting one, the grit, and I really like watching other people, and especially the girls race for the North American.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on in their head, and like Michaela's desire to win after falling over must have been like next level, and just that fight. But yeah, so I don't think I have any of the qualities. They're all on a good level, but none of them are up here. I think it's just all of those factors combined, and experience, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it's just like the body is capable of an awful lot, and you don't truly appreciate what it is capable of until you like do it and push it, and then that sets the bar for the next time, right?
Exactly. Just keep pushing the bar, which is why I'm like, yeah, there's no limits, and yeah, see what you're capable of. But yeah, still learning with.
All right, great. Well, thank you for thank you for talking to us today. I really appreciate it. Is
Okay,
there
thank you.
anywhere you want to send people to, your website or Instagram or something like that?
Yeah, I have a website and Instagram. I'm really bad at Instagram, and I want to get better because I've got a million half-written blogs that I want to share information. So that is a plan. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, Felicity Cole PT, and I do have a website. And you can contact me through either.
Okay. All right, perfect. Well, good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully you make the elite races, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Very soon. Thanks, Greg.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care. See ya.